Good evening. My name is Nelson Raphael, and you are joining us for another Real Talk webinar on July 15th, 2026. Today's topic, high value decision making, a financial literacy webinar. So today's agenda, I'll welcome you as I have. You'll meet our wonderful panelists that we hear, our three esteemed panelists, and they'll engage in a panel discussion about financial literacy and how AI pervades some of their decisions within this realm. I'll then open it up to the audience for question and answers, and we'll close and talk about next steps. So, welcome to Real Talk. We're glad that you're here. You're wondering why we're here today. So if you're not already familiar, we're representing the Emerging 100 of North Metro Atlanta. I am the Economic Empowerment Chair, Nelson Raphael. And so of the four pillars, I represent economic empowerment. Our other three pillars are mentorship, education, and health and wellness. By the end of this session, though, specifically in terms of economic empowerment, you will know how to protect yourself and know about reading the terms before the terms control you. You will be adapting by using new tools without surrendering your judgment and critical thinking. You will be learning how to prioritize by putting your time and energy behind the highest return opportunities. And you will start to compound by turning consistent habits into durable wealth. So let's go ahead and get through our introductions. We have Malcolm Mallory, who is a contracts and career management. We have Reggie Marble, who is head of sales at Sierra. We have Philip Correa, who is AI implementation consultant at Intellivate AI Incorporated. So love to have you gentlemen here. First up, we have Malcolm Mallory. He is purposeful and an attentive contract manager with a successful background working on cost and fixed price type contracts. He delivers consistent and accurate guidance and successfully oversees contracts valued at more than $750 million. He is meticulous in assessing contracts and mitigating risk. He provides executive support and team leadership to business operations. He's been recognized for exemplary customer service and team collaboration. Thank you for joining us, Malcolm. Next up, we have Reggie Marble. He is the head of sales at Sierra, one of the fastest growing enterprise software companies in history. Sierra is the leading platform for customer experience, AI agents trusted by top brands, including Walmart, ADT, Rocket Mortgage, SiriusXM, Cigna, and Sonos. Prior to Sierra, Reggie held senior leadership roles at Slack and Salesforce, where he built and scaled high-performing teams and drove significant revenue growth. Beyond his executive work, Reggie is a dedicated mentor. He's actively supporting and advancing diverse talent across the tech ecosystem. He is a proud graduate of Morehouse College and the author of The Blueprint, The Keys to Making Big Money in Professional Sales. Thank you for joining us, Reggie. And last but certainly not least, we have Philip Correa, an AI implementation consultant at Intellivate AI Inc. Philip is an operator who designs, builds, and deploys practical AI systems for small businesses, nonprofits, and service-based organizations. Experienced in building chatbots, AI agents, workflow automations, dashboards, internal tools, LLM integrations, and client-facing systems that reduce manual work and improve operational visibility. He's delivered 15 plus AI and automation projects across healthcare, wellness, real estate, nonprofit, e-commerce, and creator media. He has a strong background in finance, business operations, stakeholder communication, and training non-technical teams to adopt and manage new systems. With his MBA in finance, a founder of a financial literacy nonprofit, and former CFO of a major Atlanta technology conference. Thank you for joining us, Philip. So as you guys can see, we have a serious powerhouse of speakers here. So here are some of the topics we're going to be getting into. We're going to be talking about protecting your value by making informed decisions that safeguard your time, finances, and long-term career. We're going to talk about choosing the right opportunity by evaluating risk, alignment, and long-term potential before committing. We're also going to talk about using technology wisely by leveraging AI and digital tools to enhance judgment rather than replace it. So I want to go ahead and jump in. So Reggie, this question is directed towards you. How do top sales leaders evaluate opportunities?
It's a very nuanced question, and it just depends on the industry you're in. But essentially, the sales leader's responsibility is to build the revenue generating arm for the company. Because if you don't have money, you don't have revenue, you don't have a company. So when you're evaluating opportunities, especially in what I do today, we're a fast growing AI company. It starts off with clearly understanding who is your ideal customer profile. So if you know who your buyer is, also we have an industry focused motion. So we're focused on building AI agents that are in brands or in markets where people have to talk to a brand. So if you think about where people live, work, and play, you have to talk to your financial services company, healthcare, retail, travel, tourism, hospitality, technology companies. So number one, you got to define who you're going to go sell to. And then you have to understand what are the challenges and issues they're dealing with. And then you have to understand, get your MBA in their business and know their business better than they do. So when you show up, you're not selling to them, you're actually doing business consulting and you can add value. So that's kind of how I think about as a sales leader, how you would build like value, how you would go about, assessing value and setting that up.
Thank you for that. Yeah, you definitely talked about in terms of strategization with the MBA standpoint, and that is something that I think people don't really realize the importance of, because I think everybody loves the idea of creating a business, but they don't understand that revenue generation as well as financing, because without that income stream, there is no lifeblood of the industry. There is no lifeblood of business. It will not survive. So let's talk about some of the pitfalls. So Malcolm, I'd like to ask you, what financial mistakes do professionals make most often?
I think starting out, just not realizing the time is your biggest asset. So starting out when you first getting out into a new job in the workforce, setting up those accounts, investment accounts early, jumping into your employer's 401k. Just think in the beginning, time is on your side, and the faster you can get into investing, the better you'll be in the long run.
Definitely. So we're talking about how time is compounding those investment practices early on and increasing that principal as fast as possible while you have more principal to work with. Awesome. So I would like to ask you another question. Since you definitely have a good grip on this, how does high value decision making, or what does high value decision making mean in your career on your day to day?
Yeah, for me, I've worked with a lot of just directors and VPs in the aerospace and defense sector in my line of work. So for me, high value decision making is always kind of like looking at your day and your workload and making sure you hit all the critical things that need to be done first. So like just funneling out the lower level activities that not necessarily you want to put off, but just prioritizing things. So I know if I have a meeting with my VP or directors, prioritizing that first and making sure I handle everything in regards to those meetings and those deliverables, and then kind of prioritize it from there. So that's always kind of helped me in the workplace, just understanding like, okay, with certain things, you can't sweat certain small things, and you have to get the high level things done first. And once you address those, you can kind of trickle down and work your way and work through your workload. So I think being able to manage a lot of different commitments at the same time is big when you're in a fast paced work environment.
Gotcha. Yeah, time is of the essence. And Philip, I think this brings us to a great point, because sometimes we have to leverage tools to be more impactful quicker. So which AI tools or skills should professionals learn today?
I think I'm going to double down on what Reggie was saying. Is like, you really have to have an MBA in your own business to even know what tools you need to be utilizing. And that ends up being like the issue with a lot of people, where they want to automate out so many things but they can't speak to a science what they actually need to get done. But once people know what actually needs to get done, it's very easy to talk to a bunch of different tools, either from a general standpoint or to talk to different people to do implementation, whether it's in passing to say like, hey, look, like I'm really trying to figure out how to put webhooks in this, or I'm really trying to figure out how to build like a dashboard that can talk through this, or I'd like to automate out emails. What kind of things are you guys utilizing for that? But having that MBA in your business makes that conversation 1,000 times easier rather than going into ChatGPT and saying like, I want to only spend 4 hours a week in my business. Like, what do I need to do? And it's not an expert in your business like you are. So I think it's an amplifier. Amplifying your own knowledge is key.
So with the amplification of your own knowledge and having that context as the starting ground, once you have that set context, are there some daily driver tools that you have seen great success with?
For sure. So a lot of people use, whether it's a major company, think about whether it's like a ChatGPT or like a Claude or like an Anti-Gravity, which is Anthropic, OpenAI, or like Google. You can basically plug in there. And it's interesting, right before we got on, we were talking about how context ends up being a big issue when doing long projects with AI. But all of that to say, or what it really means, like to make it really, really simple, the more projects that you do, you need to have a very easy way of your AI both communicating with you, doing the things, but also taking notes. Because the same way that we go through and we'll have conversations with people, we'll forget part of the conversation. So we need to have a way to take notes. So 2 other cool tips would be utilizing something like Obsidian, looking up what that is, or like a notebook LLM, so that when you're building out things specifically for your business, or even at a personal level, your AI could use that to take notes. And then depending on what AI model you want to use next, it can all refer back to that notepad. So if you want to test out ChatGPT, you can use that. You want to test out Claude, you can use that. You want to test out a Hermes, you can use that. So that's an easy way to make that a lot easier. So as you're trying out new things, because we're not sponsored by any of these people, so I'm not pushing one more than the other. But I personally like using Claude a lot, but I've tested out plenty of different tools. So there's no right or wrong answer. But it definitely is going to start with executing, but then using one of those tools to make sure you're taking good notes and your AI can take notes so you're not repeating conversations.
Gotcha. Well, yes, as you said, we are not sponsored by any of the hosted large language models. So these are only personal opinions. Please do not hold our feet to the fire for those. Reggie, I'd like to ask you a question. Given that you're head of sales, you have a plethora of experiences. So I really want to know, like, what goes on in the mind of Reggie Marble? How do you balance risk, reward, and timing?
Yeah, great question. So I go back to a couple of, I love quotes, by the way. So I don't know if anyone is into this guy named Dom Kennedy. He's like a hip hop, he's a rapper from LA. And he never broke through, man. He had some hits, some mixtapes. He just never could break through. He's been on some of Nipsey stuff, but he says money costs time, time costs money. So the biggest asset that goes into my head is the things that I can control are my attitude, my work ethic, and where I spend my time. So time management for me is critically important. I still to this day keep an old school to-do list. And if it's not on that list, it doesn't get prioritized. As you get busy and you're running around, but like everything I do, I always go back to my to-do list. And I take pleasure on like scratching stuff off the list. But that is like the North Star to how I manage my time, how I manage my thoughts. I write everything down and I kind of manage my time based off the to-do list. And then, your work ethic, no one can ever take that away from you. So how am I over prepared? How am I showing up? Am I operating with craftsmanship? So work ethic, like am I grinding? Am I putting the hours in? So that would be the second pillar. And then the third pillar is just like my energy, like how I show up. So time management, my work ethic, and my energy. And I always try to be positive. I always try to find solutions versus, looking at negativity. I try to see the positive in everything. And every problem I'm faced with, I'm always like thinking solutions. Like, how do I solve this problem? And I quote Nelson Mandela: I never lose. I either win or learn. So I just try to always, approach each and everything that I do with positive energy, work ethic, and just make sure I'm spending my time in the right places that are going to benefit me, benefit my family, and benefit whatever business I'm in.
Definitely gotta love an old school to-do list and prioritization of a work ethic is very key to get to a position like the one that you currently hold. So I want to kind of shrink the scope of the question just a little bit. So you definitely gave me a lot of guiding principles there. But in the sense of maybe some of these decisions that you're making, how are you measuring maybe the risk and reward of said decision from a high level using some of those principles you just mentioned?
Yeah, I rely on data a lot, and I'll give you some more quotes. I've been thinking about this. Quote number one is data always tells the story. The second quote was, this is from the former CEO of Apple, the guy that replaced Steve Jobs when Steve Jobs lost the company and he got it back. He says, no great marketing decisions have ever been made without qualitative data. And then the last quote I'll give you, without data, all we have is an opinion. So everything that I do, especially running a pretty significant sales operation at scale, is all my decisions are based on what is the data telling me. Obviously, you have like you have advisors, you have you rely on your team, you rely on like what you're hearing from your customers and prospects, your competition. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to data, and that is like our precious, most important asset is data. It's not only getting the data, but it's actually how do you use it. And I think my brother Philip was talking about, like, are you guys using AI tools? Like, if I live and die, and I'm actually using all of them. I use ChatGPT, I use Claude. I'm starting to play around with Gemini. I try to use as much automation and artificial intelligence into everything that I do to make me more productive, allow me to move faster. But once again, it goes back to everything that I do. It's based off of like, what is the data telling me? And then I layer on my own opinions and intuition into that.
Awesome. Thank you for that great answer. And we're talking about data kind of governing our decisions. So I love the data-driven mindset. I can greatly appreciate that. I'm an engineer by trade, test engineer by profession. So data is paramount for me too, in terms of why things succeed in a deterministic manner. But I'd like to kind of jump to a little bit of a different way of using data. So Malcolm, in maybe a data-driven way, how should someone evaluate a contract before signing?
Yeah, I think when in my industry, working with a lot of government clients, whenever we get a contract award, we're analyzing the different FAR clauses that are implemented for the business to make sure they're applicable, and the government contracting officer rightfully put them in the contract. A lot of times we're trying to mitigate risk by examining stuff like liquidated damages clauses, in which if we don't perform to a certain level, our company could lose money by a day, if for X number of days, X number amount of dollars, if we're not performing certain service level agreements. Anytime we have contracts that come in from the government, we kind of want to review those top to bottom. So I've implemented AI when I'm doing my review. So I have like certain clauses that I know to look for, and AI has tremendously helped me because I can kind of put those, I can put a contract into an AI model and basically have it scan for the certain FAR clauses that I find are just risk averse, very risky for the company. And I can quickly kind of point those out, read through those sides that kind of use that as a negotiation. Push back against the government contracting officer if I need to. So I guess that's more so AI, but these are all kind of like ways data has definitely helped me when evaluating just government contracts within my workload.
Yeah, risk and governance is very key, especially in your role. And I even think about some of these tools that we access regularly and how we may get federated access through our different entities or our different employers in that sense. Data privacy, secure data, PII, especially if you're kind of like the insurance realm or medical realm, it's very crucial that you have the right data protections in place. And so while this advent of AI in terms of making us more impactful, making us more, at least able to make a quicker or more rapid decision based off of this data that's afforded to us, sometimes we're going too fast and we're moving fast and loose. If we're not moving with the right governance strategy in mind, then we might be an issue later on. So I'd like to kind of switch it up and talk more about the investments in new technology. So Philip, how should someone evaluate an investment in new technology?
My brain goes so many different ways when I hear that question, because I'm thinking about it both from like a personal level, but also from like a business level. I think when it comes to implementing new technologies, you have to think about, like Brother Reggie was saying, like, how is this saving me time? And sometimes when we're thinking about from a personal level, like, how is this not only saving, but then creating time? Like a lot of people talk about freedom and like the financial freedom numbers, right? But it's the same way that you can say that, but you have to be able to quantify, like, how much does 40 hours of your time actually cost? It's interesting when people will say, like, all right, how much do you feel like you need to be like financially free at this stage in life? And they'll throw out gigantic numbers, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with. But let's say you are able to not only pay all of your bills, but you're able to save, you're able to give or do whatever else you need on your salary as it is right now. You're able to figure out how to get to that exact same amount of money passively. Technically, you're free. You're free right now, even before you figure out how to make $1 million or $5 million a year. It starts with, what does it cost for you to have all of your time right now? And does that also give you enough freedom to do all the things that actually matter to you right now? So I'm looking at how to implement technology from a personal level. I'm thinking about, how do I utilize technology possibly to evaluate investments or to amplify the things that I am currently doing? How do I amplify my outreach so I can find other people that know the things that I want to know so that I can get closer to those numbers a lot sooner? If I'm thinking about it from a business standpoint, it does come back down to, like, how does this amplify the systems? How does it amplify my team? How does this shortcut time? And how does it help collapse like goals when it comes to how we get things done? So it's kind of like two ways that I think about it. But at the end of the day, it's about figuring out ways to collapse towards getting the goals and the things that you want to get done a lot faster from a personal or a business level.
Yeah, you definitely started to talk about amplification at the organizational level. And at that level, those are some very critical decisions you have to make. So now I really have to ask you, what financial decisions should never be fully delegated to AI? Because we're giving a lot of people, I feel, give a lot of responsibility to AI blindly. But which one should we definitely be like, no, that we should definitely hold on to that. We should call that back.
Yeah, I think it's about your vivid vision, right? Like there's an exercise that I learned with some friends many, many years ago at this mastermind that I was at. And it talked about like writing out in a story format what you want your life to look like in 10 years in like crazy vivid detail. Like not, all right, I want this. Like, what do you want your health to look like? What do you want your family to look like? What do you want your finances to look like? Where if you're spiritual, what do you want your spirituality to look like? And then figuring out what that vision is supposed to be, I think is something that you should protect and revisit, whether it's every 3 months, 6 months, or once a year. I think when utilizing tools like AI, whatever, no matter what's a chatbot, whether you're using a Claude Code, whatever, it's like you should be figuring out how to do a piece of your vision that you've already identified, rather than trying to go into models and say, like, what should my life look like in 10 years? It doesn't have the context. It has no idea to understand all the things that really matter to you at a personal level, where it can give you an example that really makes sense. I mean, I think that's the same thing when people say, like, take anything with a grain of salt, because when someone gives you advice, there's only but so much they understand from a conversation with you. Our conversation can be great, can be very insightful, but it's impossible to know all of the things that someone may carry on their mind, on their heart, on their spirit, that they may want to actually accomplish in life. And I think that's one thing we should never outsource. And I think that's something we should do a lot better job of checking in internally and then using tools and of course other people as well to bring those things to life. Yeah.
Definitely. And there's almost a level of discipline you have to have outside of that context to know when it's too much and when it's just enough. So speaking of that discipline, which habits, Malcolm, distinguish financially disciplined professionals?
Yeah, I would say everything with money and like spending is really just habitual. So like, setting up automation on how you want your paycheck allocated, like investing in certain accounts. Having that certain money allocated towards your 401k or your HSA account, having that money going towards your IRA. I think everything I've learned over the years since I've been investing is just building good habits and just doing things repeatedly. So, that also shows up in the reverse as well. If every time you get your money, you never know where it's going and you don't have your funds kind of allocated in a certain way, then they're bound to just be blown on anything. So I think you have to be very intentional where you spend your money. And you can take a lot of the thinking out of it by making a lot of this stuff automated investing, and then you can check in on it when you need to. So, but everything around financial decisions, I believe, is like habitual, and it always kind of shows itself when you look back on your financial statement quarterly, monthly, or yearly.
Right. So it seems like we start to fall into our regular routines as people, certain routines that either serve our needs, our wants, and we just have become comfortable with. Now, certain things may be once in a lifetime opportunities. So, Reggie, I'd like to ask you, what is the biggest high stakes decision you have made in your career?
Yeah, I'll tell a little story. Just indulge me for a second. But before I do that, I do want to just add on really quickly to something Malcolm said about
Okay.
about your money, your paper. And I'm a little older than most of y'all. I'm not gonna tell you how old I am because then you guys will, try to form opinions about me. But I'm old school, man. To this day, and I'm very successful. I've done very well financially. To this day, every Sunday night, I have a spreadsheet. It's a GDoc. I go through every single dollar that goes out my household. And my kids, I have a daughter at Spelman, and my son is going to be an incoming freshman at Morehouse, greatest school in the world for Black men. Just saying, just keeping it real there. But my wife, I look at every single dollar that goes out the house. And they hate it. They see me get my computer. They see me on the spreadsheet. But when you do that, you hold yourself accountable to how much money you're spending. I also look at all of my investment, even though I have a financial advisor and I use AI and a lot of stuff, but I look at my net worth. I look at that every Sunday night, and it holds me accountable, holds my family accountable to how we're spending. And I gotta quote Jay-Z. He says, if you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it. So I would just challenge every brother on this call. You need to be looking at every single dollar that goes out. And I think if you look at a lot of these NFL athletes, I remember Magic Johnson said the reason he's a billionaire today was he started signing his own checks his second year in the NBA, and he saw how much money was going out. Same thing with Jameis Winston. He started signing his own personal checks, and when that happens, you create accountability around your own finances. So sorry, y'all. I had to share that. So biggest decision I ever made was I had done really well at Salesforce, big tech company. I was in a very senior role. I was highly compensated, but I want to be a legend. I want my name on a dorm at Morehouse College. And I had formed a relationship with this guy named Brett Taylor, who at the time was the co-CEO of Salesforce. He's currently the chairman of OpenAI's board. This guy co-created Google Maps over a weekend. If you go to old school Facebook or even Instagram today, how you can do emojis and you can make a comment and you can comment on comments. He created a company that built that technology that Facebook bought. So this guy is like a technology legend. He left Salesforce abruptly when ChatGPT came out. I remember going to lunch with him and I was like, dude, why would you leave Salesforce? You're the heir apparent to take, being the CEO of Salesforce. He was like, AI is going to change the world. It's going to disrupt everything that we do. And I just can't sit idle. It's going to be bigger than the iPhone. It's going to be bigger than the internet. And I want to create a company. And at the time, man, this was an idea. Fast forward maybe 6 months later, he got one of his best friends to leave Google. And this guy was the number 2 guy at Google. And they started a company. At the time, they were 2 guys in a WeWork. And they offered me the role as head of sales for a really small company. And my wife doesn't work outside the home. My daughter was a freshman at Spelman. My son was at private school at Westminster. You can go do the math. So I took a 70% pay cut in cash. I walked away from millions of unvested equity at Salesforce. But it was the biggest. And Ali says, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. So I didn't see a lot of Black people getting these opportunities, and I wanted to be a trailblazer where, if this company becomes a generational company and there's a senior leader in an important role that happens to be Black, I think other founders will look at us differently and it'll create more opportunities. So I left Salesforce. I walked away from all of that in January of 2024. We were a tiny company. I was employee number 23. We were in a small office above a coffee shop in downtown San Francisco. Fast forward to now, we have over 1,000 people in the company. We have become the leader in conversational AI. We make sophisticated agents that essentially you can interact with when you interact with the brand. So if you call 1-800-Walmart, our agent answers the phone, and it powers the entire Walmart experience. So if you would have told me back then we would be this successful, I would have probably believed you, but it was a massive risk. Our company is valued at $15.8 billion. We just raised $1 billion in funding. We will be a generational company. And I just believe that, like, the biggest thing I saw, man, I didn't want to look up 2 or 3 years from now and see these guys go public, and I could have been part of that. So I just would challenge everybody, like, life is about taking calculated risks. And if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough.
That is extremely inspiring. I don't even know how to really follow that, but definitely a lot of context there. The relationship building, the understanding of where you are, but where you could be, it is definitely foundational. And definitely I can understand that legendary status, that desire, that drive to be the best that there is. So I think it's something that we can definitely all aspire to.
You know, one more quick thing about relationships. I just want to pull on that a little bit more. I would say that is probably one of the most important things you'll do is, one, who you guys know all this, but I'm just going to say it, who you surround yourself with. I think I have, like, my homeboys, all, most of them went to Morehouse. Like, I've had to cut people off, man, and I hate to say it, man, but if people aren't, like, elevating you, they're not, like, inspiring you, they're not challenging you to be better, and they're dragging you down, like, get away from them. They're only gonna, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around. The second most important decision I made was my spouse. I think that is a critical decision you're gonna make if you decide to get married. Make sure you pick the right person, because if you don't, it is going to cost you a lot of money and it's going to cost you a lot of headache. So that's another important decision. And then I would just make sure you guys have, like, mentors and sponsors, and you create your own, like, circle of advisors, because those are the people that are going to help you see, like, pitfalls and roadblocks. You want to pick mentors that are doing stuff that, aspiring. You want to pick mentors that are doing things that you aspire to be. So I'll get off my soapbox on relationships. The fellas, relationships are the lifeblood and the key to your success in life.
No, I'm definitely glad that we're having this dialogue on relationships. And that quote that you provided is actually the same quote that my father told me before I went off to college. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. Those 5 people you hang out with, you'll become those people. I can show you your future if you show me your friends. So I definitely like that. That is resounding, or resonating, I should say, with this group, and also I hope our viewers online. So as we kind of continue to wrap up these questions, and you started to hit on some of these, you already kind of hinted on it a little bit, Reggie, but how do you decide which opportunities not to pursue, if we can dive in a little bit deeper?
Yeah, once again, I just go back to, like, Dom Kennedy, man. Time costs money, money costs time. And then in what I do, I don't have, all I have is time, man. And we're competing with massive tech companies that have thousands of sellers. We don't have that. So we have to know exactly who we're going after. We have to be very, very strategic about who we sell to, and make sure that our technology and our products can help them solve business problems, or no one's going to want to talk to us. So everything, go back to the to-do list, man. If you do not manage your time, you are setting yourself up for failure. So everything that I do is based off of that quote in my mind. I hear Dom in my head all the time. Time costs money, money costs time.
Love that. Love that. So I want to ask 2 people this question, and it's only because of the context of what you just said. And actually, now I think about it, I think I should open it up to all 3 of you all, because you have interesting perspectives. So in your own words, please tell me, what is your most important AI prediction for the next 5 years? And give it in the context of what you do now and what you think it can be leveraged to do 5 years from now. I'll start with you, Reggie.
In my humble opinion, I'm not saying this because my company creates AI agents that are going to power the customer experience, but I believe in the next, I would say in the next 2 years, when you interact with the brand, you're going to be talking to an AI agent. These agents, they can speak every natural language. They can process information incredibly fast. They're empathetic, they're patient. So I believe you're going to be talking to an AI agent when you interact with the brand. And I think that's going to be the expectation. Like, I want to talk to an AI. I don't want to sit on hold. I don't want to have to re-explain myself. And oh, by the way, your personal agent that you're going to be using to like handle, go schedule your trips and manage your calendar, write your emails, that agent's going to be talking to one of our agents to handle business. I just believe agents are going to be everywhere. And I believe it's going to be, AI agents are going to be bigger than any technology revolution we've ever seen.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'm going to jump over to Philip.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of people are afraid of AI taking the roles and the jobs and the things that they're doing, but there has never been a time like now to really exercise and utilize your specialized knowledge to create a solution. And I think so many people forget the aspect that they know so much that's like very unique to their experiences and lives. And even things that aren't all like business related, like any type of specialized knowledge, there's never been an easier way to package it and help a lot of people solve very specific problems like there is now. So there's a lot to brace for, but don't be afraid of it. Utilize it. It's going to be a part, and it's something that's here to stay. But there's so many things that your unique experience can help people with. So don't be afraid to figure out how to package it and go serve others.
Awesome. Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Malcolm.
Yeah, I would say just for my industry, probably just in the aerospace and defense industry, I think, we could be looking at some aspects of the Air Force going straight to kind of like UAV operated aircraft. So just basically unmanned aircrafts that can essentially go and fight and replace pilots per se. So I think there's a lot of good companies out there that I've been doing research. They're working with the Pentagon, just developing a lot of unmanned technology that I think will be leveraged. It may not be as soon as 10 years, but I could definitely see it within the next 15 to 25 years. Some companies are doing some great work and supporting our war fighters. So I definitely think, our country, the U.S. is going to leverage that technology because, we're always competing with our overseas adversaries. So I definitely see us being on the leading edge of that and being able to capitalize upon that if we ever need to do so through war. So I definitely can kind of see that on the horizon for AI.
Gotcha. And I'm going to even flip it on your head, on its head, because I actually did robotics in undergrad as well from electrical engineering. So we're not only just looking at unmanned drones for certain adversarial conflicts, but think of like your Walmart wing, so food delivery. Think of agricultural as well as livestock monitoring and doing a swarm type of approach. So think of the ways that agents, AI harnesses, and things of that nature can be combined, maybe with directives from natural language to execute a series of different surveillance patterns. So yeah, as you said, the opportunities are a little bit boundless there in terms of application. So pretty cool stuff. So I'm going to open it up to the audience now. What's on your mind? Please go ahead and give us any questions in our Q&A panel. If we were in person, you would raise your hand, but we're not in person. And definitely, I want you to connect with us on social media if maybe there's a question you want us to ask, but you couldn't think of it at the time. So I have a few just to start us out. So what does 2030 look like for entrepreneurs? And what are some of the best practices? And I'm going to throw this out to Reggie as well as Philip, primarily those two, because Philip and I had a different conversation about some of the things you were working on already. And Reggie, I think in terms of your sales background, you can kind of speak to that. So whoever wants to jump in first on that one.
Yeah, why don't you go first, Philip?
Sure. So 2030, honestly, I feel like we're at that hockey stick moment where it's like things have been like this, but now we're seeing just like how fast things can ship. I think a question or an answer that we're seeing, a lot of people used to talk about how the reason that they couldn't get things to product or to market is because they could not afford to have the people behind it or the developers behind it, the systems behind it to bring things to market. But now it's like you can ship things really, really fast. Of course, me and you had a conversation about the QA side behind it to make sure things are all like tightened from a cybersecurity standpoint. But you can ship things like faster than ever. So there's not going to be a lot of room for excuses. We saw one of the first companies to generate $400 million in revenue after a year with GLP-1s, and they only had 2 employees and a lot of AI agents. And then we even saw companies like Perplexity that were like, hey, look, we see that this is possible. We're going to do $1 billion build challenge. Anyone that's going to build stuff using our particular AI, we're going to enter it into a market and we'll give you $1 million in cash and $1 million in tokens. We are seeing the speed of things increase drastically. But the thing that you basically can't fake is like your own knowledge or your own willingness to fail and fail fast enough that you can execute and like rechange things the way that you need to make something that really makes sense. So I think entrepreneurship is going to look a lot like what it did before, which is taking calculated risk from the standpoint that you can fail forward, but now you can do it at an accelerated manner with way more tools and way more support like you needed to raise, some venture capital or some private money to do it prior. So I think it's going to look like speed and the people that are willing to fail fast, 100 times faster and make a lot more of the money a lot faster as well.
Yeah, I will take this approach. It's almost like I can't even predict what's going to happen in 4 years just because of how I've never seen anything, the rapid pace of innovation that's happening with AI. I've never seen this in my entire career. Like I said, I'm a little older than y'all. I think the way healthcare is delivered is going to be different. Education is going to change. I'm optimistic that people from underprivileged backgrounds are going to have access. It's going to level the playing field because you're going to walk around with a lawyer and a tutor, a financial advisor in your pocket, and I don't even know if phones are even going to be the way we use them today. I think you're going to just talk to AI. I think you'll have your own personal AI assistants. There's going to be advancements in robotics. There's going to be advancements in autonomous vehicles, space exploration. I mean, I can't even predict that. That's my answer just because of how fast artificial general intelligence is coming to life.
Awesome. Yeah. I want to hone in on a behavioral trait question. And this is from our viewer online, Deontay Pryor. And so, Malcolm, I think this kind of aligns with the habitual nature of spending as you were describing earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and ask, what are some behavioral traits that help build financial discipline? It seems there's a lot of spending and pursuit of materials, I think materialistic things in our community.
Hey, there was a lag. Can you repeat that question again? Or just
No
more
worries.
so the back end of it?
Awesome. It seems there's a lot of spending and pursuit of materialistic things in our community. Deontay Pryor wants to ask, what are some of the behavioral traits that help build financial discipline? Did that one come out clearly?
Yep. Yeah. Like I was kind of saying earlier, like just automating things, setting a budget. Like Reggie said, looking at your budget. I look at my budget, weekly, daily as well. Just, understanding where your dollar is going is really important. And then it's also a lot of financial apps out there. I've been using Origin as a new app. I used to use like Mint, but now I use Origin. It's a pretty cool app that's on Apple, and it has it syncs all your finances, and it's very intuitive with AI, so it can kind of just give you a breakdown of how your portfolio performed over the past week. It can show you exactly where you spent your money, and it can ask financial questions, and if you're trying to predict for retirement, so you can say you want X number of you want a certain number of money by the time you retire. How would you allocate your portfolio and investments? over the course of 20 to 25 years. How much would you need to set aside monthly to get there? So Origin has been like very just helpful for me, kind of like painting that picture of what I want my life to look like in different iterations, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So doing things like that, just staying curious and staying hungry on just reaching that next level. But yeah, like I said, just building good habits is key. But then we also have some really great tools out there that can assist you with your financial journey, so you're not doing it alone.
And I think
Go ahead.
I'll chime in on the aspect of a lot of it comes down to your identity and your vision, right? So it's like when we think about the things that we want out of life, or we have a plan for things that we want, there's two things that happen, because wanting is free. That's the reality. That's why most people want so many things in life. It doesn't cost anything to want things. But if you set, for example, I want to save this amount of money by the end of 1 year, and I have this amount of money in like free capital, like at the very discretionary capital at the end of every month, you have two choices. It is either that you are going to up your sacrifice, or you are going to lessen your ambition. So if you're real with yourself, as far as like every single month, I know that I want this. Are you going to be true to the aspect of what you want for your vision? Or are you going to up your sacrifice? Say you don't make enough money, you're like, I need to do one other thing that's going to give me enough wiggle room that I can save as much or invest as much as I would like to. Or I'm actually not willing to do the things to change to get the outcome that I want. So I'm going to lower my ambition. Instead of maybe saving 20 grand, I'm going to save 10 because I can comfortably do that. And I think that's the uncomfortable part about really sitting down and looking at it. Like if you sit down, like Reggie was talking about, sits down every Sunday and is like looking at what it is. I am pretty sure on top of him analyzing what's going on, he has goals of what he wants. And if those things shift, he's going to do one of two things. He's either going to increase the sacrifices he's willing to make to get there, or he's going to be like, I need to move the goalposts so that when I'm sitting here every single Sunday, I'm not beating myself up and I'm comfortable with how I'm going to show up. I'm comfortable with how I'm going to be. So I think that's the piece that we all have to get a lot more comfortable with. You got two options: do more or want less.
Can I ask a question? This is for Philip. You got Philip enough. You guys raised some points. So once again, I'm a little older than you guys, and I remember. I think it's harder to if you're in your 20s and 30s nowadays, just because of dating expectations and like what everyone's flossing, everybody's balling, but they're not. Mm-hmm. Like, how do y'all manage that? Because when I was coming up, it wasn't like it is today, man. And I would have tried my best not to be one of those that out here flossing and doing all this crazy stuff and try to like stay disciplined. But it's hard, man. And how do y'all deal with that in today's society? I'm curious.
So I got two things that come to mind initially. It's like, one, date people who actually like you. And then number two, like when it comes back to what you talked about relationships, it makes me think about one of my favorite quotes, which is like, your quality of life is based on your quality of relationships. Your quality of relationships is based on your quality of communication. If you are willing to communicate, you can have anything you want out of life. Because the reality is, even if you want to be with, this woman or whoever you'd like to spend the rest of your life with, if you cannot communicate like, these are my goals, these are the things that I'm working on, and you have to have a vision that's big enough. Once you get to the point, you're kind of serious. Like you have to have a vision that's big enough to encompass not only what you want, but what they want as well. If you're not willing to communicate, I'm not willing to spend $2,000 a month or $1,000 a month on dates for the heck of it. Like you got a bigger problem because you're not even willing to have the conversation with yourself to have with the person that you're dating to say that I'm not willing to do that, because there's so many other things you can do. But relationships on the other side play a major role on the kind of experiences that you can have where your social capital comes into play instead of your actual money. I mean, I'm sure all of us have been to plenty of events, whether it's sporting events, games, trips, whatever, where our social capital is what paid the price for us being there. I've gotten lots of really, really cool experiences I didn't pay $1 for, or people that I was with, I didn't have to pay in physical capital because of the social capital. So I think that's the two sides. And then date people that like you. Jesus, like please, like go spend time with people that actually like you, because then it's almost like anything that you want to do is gonna be fun. And I'm not saying like you're gonna go say let's just walk up and down the street, but it's like you can find 3 days to go to the park and go plan a picnic. If you balling on a budget, you need to go plan a picnic and do something romantic. There's so many ways you can get it done. That same bottle of wine you're gonna buy at Publix for $20 is going to cost you $100 in the store. If you need to go plan a picnic and do it that way, you need to do it that way. Play within your bracket and also within the goals that you have, and be willing to communicate those things, because the right person is going to multiply what you got going on and isn't going to be like, well, we need to do more and more and more. They're going to help you hit those goals a lot faster. Like I watched with my parents, even like my mom had us and she stayed home and then she went back to work. She didn't have to go back to work, but as she went back to work, it was like, well, got great income here, added income here. We can invest a lot more and do a lot more. It's like you want that kind of person where y'all can get on the same accord of what we're going to do. They're going to amplify that. But you can't say that and you can't afford to take care of things on your own. So you can't say I want a partner that stays at home and you can't afford for them to be at home, because then it's not optional. But even if that is the case, two people making 60 grand is $120,000 together. If y'all can get on the vision and the accord of this is what we're going to do, and get on the page, or find the person who's going to be on the page, you need to be willing to have that conversation. You can't do that, you got bigger problems to face anyways. And if you got to fake it till you make it, eventually you're going to go broke. And then what you going to do? You're going to find out they really don't want to be with you anyways. But yeah, all that to say, date people that like you first and foremost, and be comfortable communicating where you are, your goals, to find a person that's a good fit. Because there can be good people and they're not a good fit for your life and where you want to go or where you may be in the season. Hops off soapbox.
Malcolm, I'm going to go ahead and let you respond before I respond, because I have a story as well. So go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I don't know, when you're young and you're dating, I think delayed gratification is key. So, you know, I know the people in their 20s and 30s, we all want certain things. We all want the car, house, clothes, family. I think just kind of prioritizing things. I know when I was younger, I was really big into real estate. So I kind of put the delay on like getting that nice car and getting those fancy things, but really just focused in on buying assets that could appreciate over time. And that's done well for me. But yeah, like Philip was saying, date people who like you. But overall, I know in the dating landscape, it's a lot of things as a man you have to prioritize. So it's like, you know, for me, it's like, all right, I'm more so gravitated towards clothing and like designer stuff that I would want, you know, and things like that. But yeah, I think it's just a multitude of things you have to balance when dating. But you know, you have limited funding and resources. So like me, I put my money more so into real estate, and I put my money into like clothes and things like that. But just kind of like balancing that, and then yeah, the right woman will definitely come for sure.
Definitely. And I'll go ahead and round this out here. So when I was younger, I definitely had to get creative, very much so, as Malcolm and Philip were describing. There was at one point I was only going out when I got the paycheck, because it was a certain amount I had already allotted. And if you know about that frequency, you need to go ahead and see your lady. She wasn't having that, right? So there had to be an increase in frequency, but that's how disciplined I was, because I already didn't have a whole lot of money to deal with at the time. And it was like, that was what I could afford at the time. However, of course, as I got older, that disciplined mindset kind of panned into me investing earlier, right? And building that capital earlier in those assets that Malcolm was just describing. And even now, I think long ago, Capital One now holds this app capability within their own paid app. But before that, that app was free, called Level. So I remember with my first internship, I had Level, and it would basically coach you on your individualized budget for certain categories. And then when you hit the budget, it will send you the push notification to your phone. It's like, hey, you've already hit it. So whatever you do after this, you're going to be over. And that was the first internship I had when I was making some really decent money that helped govern me kind of, and making sure I stayed within those habitual cycles and routines to make sure that I wasn't going broke away from home on internship. Now, of course, that's now compounded into me personally. I use Rocket Money a lot to kind of scope out my different investments, as well as my budgets and forecasts with different goals, as well as my debt management. And so that's been very impactful. And with my current partner, you know, it's definitely a financial discussion. It's like, hey, we have to travel. All of our friends are getting married. Like, we have 4 weddings to attend. Some of them are international. This is what the budget's going to be. And, you know, I'm trying to plan for this. You're trying to plan for that. So here's the expectation. Here's the budget. Let's look at Skyscanner. What are the flights looking like? Let's target the lowest flight range. So to your point, Reggie, yes, it is a very different game. It is definitely a very different game, but there have been a few lessons that have been learned, that have been tried and tested in building those habits, as Malcolm was describing. And of course, like Philip said, please date somebody that likes you. Please. Otherwise, it's a very expensive mistake to make. So, but yeah, that was a great discussion. And if anybody want to open up for any last remarks?
Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
There can be so many things, and I feel like we're often overwhelmed with all of the news, all of the feeds, all of the suggestions. It feels like analysis paralysis in so many points. Even when it comes to investing, if you haven't already gotten started in whatever it is, I understand how overwhelming it can feel, considering you're seeing people talk about invest in vending machines, like go ahead and start a Turo business, get into real estate, build houses, flip houses, Section 8, Airbnb, startups, venture capital, angel investing, like become a public speaker, social media, brand deals. Like there's so many things that are constantly speaking to when you haven't had the actual experience, or sometimes you're not close enough that you can just call the person and say like, hey, I know you're in this space. What do the numbers actually look like? And I think that means there's a couple things that need to happen next if you're trying to figure out what to do. One, work on writing out that vivid vision. I think the issue is that everybody wants to know how to execute and do the tactical steps right now, when the reality is there's someone that has already figured out how to do all the tactical steps. You need to figure out how you want to dream big, find the people that already done it. If you want to go to law school, you can be like, all right, well, maybe I think I need to do this, rather than being like, oh, I need to call Malcolm and be like, all right, well, what did you do? Or what did some other people do that I can shortcut that? Or I'm maybe thinking about going into the startup space. Like, hey, Reggie, like when you were deciding to leave Salesforce, like what were the things you were analyzing before you made that jump? And these are all the things that will shortcut it. So instead of trying to figure it out on your own, like build those relationships, find those things, present the vision that you have, and figure out how someone can shortcut it, because someone else has done it and they have the knowledge of how to make it happen so much faster. So don't be afraid to have those conversations. Don't be afraid of being told no. I like telling students when I'm talking to them, like you're 500 no's likely from getting anything that you want in life. The reality is you're just afraid of being told no. If you get over the fear of looking crazy or just asking the person, like, cause you can reach out to 1,000 people like Reggie and be like, hey, look, I heard your story. I was on this thing. Like, I'm wondering, will you get on a call 15 minutes? They might be too busy. They might not even see the actual message, but after you message one person, you're like, oh, well, they didn't say anything. Everyone is going to be like that, flipping that and being like, okay, great. I'm only 499 no's away from definitely getting towards the outcome that I'm looking for, which is having that conversation with that person that can transform into everything else. So I'd say don't be afraid of putting yourself out there. Get out there and try the things. Like we only got one, go around on this beautiful earth. And yeah, you've got this. Like, you know more than you think. Trust yourself, trust your gut. And then don't be afraid, and don't let other people speak negatively into the dreams that they're not going to help you build. And don't take on anything from anyone who is not going to show up at your funeral, and you are not going to show up at theirs.
That last one is definitely food for thought. I've never heard it put that way, but yeah, definitely show up for people who are reliable in your story too. So,
Malcolm, why don't you go?
Yeah, I would just say, piggybacking off Philip, just try to reverse engineer where you want to be at the end, and really just most people have already had that blueprint of how they want to get somewhere. So just do your research on where you want to go, and then kind of meticulously build that path out and stay focused. There's so many different opportunities out here to jump on to the next thing. But what I found very useful in my career is always kind of stay head down and focused on what I believed in and what I wanted to do. So I really didn't jump much to different things that were kind of like trendy. And just because somebody threw a new idea in my face, just jumped on it right away. So I always like to do your own independent research and really leverage your skill sets that you went to school for, or whatever your education route was. Lean into that and really build that leverage and skill set within your marketplace. And when you do that, once you build that leverage and your knowledge and skill set, you can name your price. So just always kind of just think about your value within your marketplace, and just always look to grow that and build that leverage, because your next opportunity is always, like one call away. So that's what I would definitely advise.
The only thing I'll add is I'm a firm believer in writing down your goals and looking at them every week or however, whatever cadence. And this is a quote, like, seeing your goals written in ink on paper will have a powerful effect on your mind. I go back and look at everything that I've accomplished in my career, my professional life, personal life, financial. It's all stuff I wrote down on a board, and I'd look at it every day. There's so much power in the visualization of like you accomplishing goals and seeing them written down, because it forces you to see them consistently and you hold yourself accountable to achieving those goals. So write down where you want to be. And I would do like 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, and a year, and just look at that constantly. And then you'll always be forcing yourself to continue to strive to hit those goals.
Awesome. Awesome. Great nuggets from each and every one of you guys. So I want to say thank you for your time, number one, because you guys have been fantastic in terms of navigating the AI discussion, navigating the financial impacts of said AI discussion, as well as giving your own personal spin based off of your industry knowledge and your personal experiences. So definitely kudos to you all. I want to open up this time to anybody online. The kind of programming that we do is always moving to support the community. So your charitable donations go towards our scholarship program for the Men of Tomorrow program, our award-winning mentorship program within the 100 Black Men of America. You can scan this QR code for our link tree where you can find our Give Butter link to donate to that scholarship fund. And of course, as we come to an end, I want to remind us that you can always connect with us. We definitely want to keep this kind of conversation going. You can connect with us on Instagram and YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. You can visit our website at www.e100northmetro.org. And please join us for our next Real Talk webinar coming soon. This has been a lovely experience. We've had a very powerhouse group of hosts and speakers here today. I really hope you guys captured the nuggets that came from Malcolm, Philip, and Reggie. They really came and left it all on the field, so to speak. So I'm looking forward to hopefully having them as future speakers for our next Real Talk webinar or webinar in the future. But it's time for us to close. And on that note, we will see you next time. Have a good one.